First for local news, Dan Lewis, Kathy Gertson, Steve Poole, Eric Johnson. Como 4 News continues.
It's an honor to do it, and I guarantee you there's not one of us in the military that wouldn't take this mission.
Local servicemen and women return to Vietnam in hopes of answering questions for families whose loved ones never returned. Welcome back to Como 4 News. I'm Kathy Gertson.
And I'm Dan Lewis. First for local news at 5:30 on this Memorial Day, we honor those servicemen and women who have sacrificed their lives for our country. Many of those veterans are still missing, still unaccounted for. Como's John Sharifi reports on a mission that some of our local military men and women have taken on to find the veterans who never made it back, to bring closure to their families.
On the buy stuff with his man, he said, well, if we get the rush from Panama.
At first glance, this scene in the mountains of Laos looks like your typical archaeological dig.
We're going to find what we need to find.
But these aren't archaeologists. They are servicemen and women from the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And what they are looking for may surprise you.
It's quite an awestruck feeling when you're screening down there and you come across a dog tag or a key or a ring or a watch or even a bone. It's quite a almost frightening experience at first.
They are remains of Vietnam veterans missing in action for nearly 4 decades.
Glad I wasn't flying this one.
A surveillance plane that crashed near the village of Bulapau with 9 American soldiers on board.
There were 9 individuals on the aircraft, and we were trying to basically find the last 2 that had not been identified.
Petty Officer First Class Nick Williams from the Whidbey Island Naval Air Station helped find the remains last February.
We were sifting and digging for about 30, 35 days altogether.
His buddy, Petty Officer Second Class Ben Umayum, worked a different crash site in Laos.
We found quite a bit of bone and teeth.
The search and recovery of MIAs and POWs is part of the military's Joint Task Force full accounting mission. Now in its 10th year, servicemen and women have recovered as many as 500 unaccounted for Americans. Ben Umayum says he knows it sounds corny, but the mission gave him a deeper sense of patriotism, knowing that families could finally have closure.
I've never been more proud of anything.
On this Memorial Day, both Petty Officers Umayum and Williams will be thinking and thanking those brave men and women who gave their lives in the Vietnam War. Nick Williams will never forget seeing and holding the dog tags that belonged to one of them.
To hold them in my hand, the black electrical tape that the individual had used to tape them together was still on it. And it's hard to explain. It touches you, you know. I still feel it, you know. We got this guy. He's going to go home.
Both Williams and Umayum were born after Vietnam. They know about this war only in what they've read, what they've heard. What they know is how important it is to look out for their own.
I was talking to my father about it. He said that if it were to happen to him, if I were to be gone and never heard from again, he would search the earth for me.
Search the earth in the hopes of bringing one of their own home. John Sharifi, Como 4 News.
There are still about 2,000 Americans unaccounted for in Southeast Asia. Hundreds of people gathered today at Arlington National Cemetery.